I'll make that motion that we approve the minutes.
Okay. Motion made by Bill, second. Second by Mike. Questions, changes, corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Public comment. Amber, do we have anybody registered prior? Okay. Clark, you, no public on your end, that, no public comment?
Nope.
Okay. Okay, so then we're gonna go to 8 and 9, and I don't know, Matthew.
Yeah, I can take it from here.
Okay.
So I wanted to start with the ATV ordinance. This was enacted in 2016. It's a signed ordinance. Should have been in your packet. I included it. Just for reference, when we get to talking about policy. So county trunk highway or portions of the county trunk highways designated as ATV routes shall be established and approved by the highway committee. The highway committee shall develop policies and procedures for designation of ATV routes, including appropriate criteria for making a designation. So I just wanted to make that clear. This body, this committee, has to have a policy, which it does have a policy in place for ATV routes. It's fairly restrictive. It has a lot of stipulations in it at this time. So if you are interested in opening, we're getting some requests. Gary has got some requests from the towns to open up F and N. We've got some requests from a club to open up a portion of GG and County C. Under the current policy, basically none of that could be open. That's just how the policy is written. So at this time, we can talk about revising the ATV policy, if that's what you guys are wanting to do.
Then the question begs, how did we open F?
Well, it went, F came through their club, and it was looked at for a lot of different options. We looked at out in the woods, getting trails, and it was found that no other route was available. So then it went through the whole, as far as the policy, it went through the whole procedure, and then it was open. But if you read through the policy, it really doesn't give any room for blanket openings of whole roads or whatever. So that's what I'm saying. If that's where you guys want to go, first of all, you need to revise your policy.
Okay.
So if we move into the policy, a route is generally, I just want to go over some of this stuff. Andrew, if you could pull up that policy on the screen. You have that one that I highlighted?
Oh, yes.
So, as you see on the screen, a route is generally recognized as a means to connect the terminal ends of a trail when it is obstructed by a city, village, river, railroad track, or other impediment. Then you go to the next paragraph. The form must be completed and forwarded to the highway committee by the appropriate Trails Association for consideration. So as the policy stands, Gary, the towns cannot, I mean, the request from the towns that you know, per policy, it has to be through a trail, and that would be one of the things, you know, a revision, a possible revision, if you wanted to include a town in that.
Yeah, just let me point this out. the reason we went to the towns was to make sure that we had their blessing.
Okay,
I went to town of Jacobs, town of Peaksville, and town of Agenda.
sure.
Town of Peaksville and Jacobs on county and town of Agenda for F. I wanted their blessing, even though we knew we were gonna have the club support, so that everybody understood that the public, being the towns, approved. And all 3 towns have sent letters to the county highway committee
Sure.
stating their approval. So we have that part covered, just from a perspective, we wanted their blessing.
Yeah. So if we move down in this paragraph, highways with posted speed limits in excess of 35 miles an hour will not be considered for ATV route designation, except for crossings or for short distances such as a bridge crossing a water body. So that line right there takes out a whole route. It's not possible under this policy, the way I see it.
Right.
So,
So is it easier to create a new policy or to totally change this one?
well, I think, I mean, this one can be rewritten to it's your committee. You guys need to decide what if any you want to take into consideration when doing an ATV route.
Well, I know in the case of, I can't talk to other county highways, but in the case of County N and County F, there's a huge, not only economic reason to open them up, but we have the support of the towns and we have the support of, I believe, a rec officer. He can speak for himself, but it's here. The cat's out of the bag. And if I dare say, if anybody goes to Clam Lake on a weekend and see the hundreds, and I mean hundreds of ATVs in Clam Lake in the summertime, it is the biggest economic boom this area has seen. And we're crying for economic revival in this area. And so I'm personally all in favor of opening N and F, following the right procedure. And if you tell us if the committee agrees or not, that's the committee's decision, but how we can best address this so that we can get the ball rolling. Because we all know it's going to take a little bit of time.
Sure.
And then the clubs will have to work with you on signage and things like that.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it as I'm opposed to a blanket to say they're all open.
Right.
I have a big problem with GG from Mellon to Clam Lake. That road it's heavily used by trucks, logging trucks, all kinds of trucks. It's a narrow road. There's steep slopes. There's nowhere for an ATV to get off. There's a lot of corners, some hills, and these trucks, they come through at 60 miles an hour. And that's just a big safety concern for me. County Highway N, there's a few logging trucks, very, very little regular car traffic. I mean, a few people live up on it, and then there's a few cabins on Augustine Lake at the end. Not a huge deal. F is a little bit more concerning. It's a little bit more traffic, being it's a route between, Mercer and Butternut and some of the lakes and stuff out there. That's a little bit more of a concern, traffic volumes and such, but it's up to you guys. I mean, what does the committee want to see a policy entail?
Question.
Sure.
It would have been nice to have a map of what you're proposing here so that we could see the terrain and how straight the road is, how many curves there are, this kind of thing.
Sure.
If anybody else thinks that's important, but like you said, the road out of Mellon is horrible.
Yeah, I mean,
That's GG.
that's GG. Yeah.
Just an example.
I think right now, based on what Matt is describing, the issue you're talking about is something that we talked about a little bit later. The policy in place right now, this is the first time I've seen it. I don't know if the sheriff's department knows about this. The
Yeah.
other thing is that the ordinance, I'm not sure the sheriff's department even knows about the ordinance existing, this is the ordinance 6/2016-85. And some of the problem has been there's a disconnect between different county departments when things are being drafted. The laws have changed, it looks like, or it appears anyways, prior to this, or after this was adopted. When was this policy made?
Policy, I don't remember the date. I think it was right after, the same time as the ordinance. It was,
Okay.
the policy came into effect. I think it says in there, this policy shall become effective upon passage by the Atchison County Board of Supervisors. Ordinance.
In the way of thinking that I'm just hearing here now, considering a UTV or an ATV, because that's what we're talking about, is they're no different than a motorcycle. So these motorcycles are legal to ride on these roads that you're talking about. The speed limit of the roadway is what motorcycles follow. And I believe that for visibility wise, as long as we don't limit the ATVs or UTVs to anything different than what an automobile or a motorcycle is doing out there, that can be done out there, like posting it for 35, or as the ordinance reflects, something about 25 miles an hour. And I thought I read something else in here.
The ordinance says if no ATV limits are posted, the ATV speed limit shall be 25.
Okay, but
And then the policy,
because of that being stated in there, that the state law right now dictates that if you're posting it other than what the roadway speed limit is, it has to be posted on that route so that everybody knows. Because otherwise, no one's going to know that the speed limit is 25 miles an hour. You have to post it just like you do out here. Like if Highbridge, we posted 45 to go through here, you have to do the same thing in the area that you're talking about.
sure,
I think, and then following up with this along with the ordinance, is that our ordinances, the way they're drafted, make it very difficult for us to put it into our records management system, along with, when we have to write citations, it's called tracks, to be able to, stick like section this, that need to be numbered differently. I know that Clark and I have talked about the county's working on trying to get a better numbering system and the ordinances updated and codified. But without having the departments that are affected by this communicating with one another on a regular basis, there's going to be a disconnect, and that shouldn't be right now. So I believe that the policy, I think there's some good points in here, just reviewing it. But is there any reason why we would be making more strict than what state law is right now? Because some of this stuff kind of shows that it is. And if that's the case, we have to have ordinances to be able to enforce this. And right now, as it stands, I don't believe we do, just based on our system and how it works.
sure.
So a lot more needs to go into it. However, I think we need to get ahead of it beforehand, because like you said, there's good points on for safety, why we're doing this for the roadways, and GG this, GG that. But when you already talk about it, we have motorcycles, bicyclists already operating on the roadway. So to neglect one group doesn't make any sense to me.
Do you feel it's safe for ATV to run GG at 55 miles an hour?
My opinion doesn't really matter. All I'm saying is that because of what state law has mandated, because the laws have changed for tires now, where they don't have to use low pressure tires anymore, so now they can use basically a truck tire or a car tire if they want, that depending on, you could argue the same thing with motorcycles. How experienced are they? Experienced drivers, how experienced is a driver going down the road that's 16 years old compared to someone that's 30, 35, whatever, and then the makeup of the person. We could sit here and argue this all day, whether it's safe for some people to be driving and other people not to be driving. I mean, so we have the same thing, I believe, for ATVs. GG, if you want to argue, is the north half of it because of the curves and the little dips and, you know, the deer, and then, you know, that how close trees are to the road, which makes visibility a little compromised sometimes. Is it safe for regular vehicle traffic? We could argue that all day as well. So in that point, as long as we're not slowing down traffic to any degree, and it's kind of flowing as it should, I believe you're gonna have the same factors, whether ATVs, UTVs are on the highway or not, because we already have all this other traffic that can impede, slow, or is different than normal automobiles, tractor trailers, tractors, you know, slow moving vehicles,
Sure.
all that's on the highway already.
Yeah. But highways are designed for automobiles and trucks.
Correct.
They're not.
But they're not
They're
designed for
designed
bicycles, they're not
ATVs.
designed for pedestrians, and they're not
No,
designed
they're
for
not.
slow moving vehicles,
No,
but they all share the highway and they have for years.
they do. But-
So I don't want to take away any part of that. I agree with you that, so, yeah, some roads have more obstacles, or they're not as straight level as, you know, we all want them to be, and perfect visibility. I mean, that's just what we live in. So the argument is if it's going to be more safe or more dangerous, it's just, that's what it is. I mean, that's what it's coming to. The world is we live in right now, is this is what we have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's an argument we should have, but I mean, a car is designed a lot more crash worthy than an ATV. And
Sure.
they're designed to go 55 miles an hour down the road. ATVs, I don't see that they're designed to be very crash worthy and then to go 55 miles an hour down.
Same argument with the motorcycle though.
Yeah.
Motorcycle is not crash
They're
resistant.
they have a better design to go faster down the road.
Yeah.
But they are very not crash worthy.
Correct.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Okay, so basically, does the rest of the committee feel that we should move forward on, I'm looking at N and F right now. GG we can talk about, it's down here somewhere anyways, but N and F are two of the roads that have been requested by the towns or approved by the towns to be open. There's community support, so there's a committee support doing something. We have to change the policy and whatever else we have to do, but we have to start somewhere. So is there any objections to going forward, looking at that?
Was the sheriff's department aware of this or no?
Aware
Of this request?
I asked Amber a long time ago just to be put on so I could monitor this, because I knew this is where this stuff was taking place. So I try my best that when I see something like this on here, that I come to a meeting so that I'm, you know, stay in touch with it. Like I said though, the sheriff's department, I know in previous, and I'm not saying this ordinance, but I know that the county board has made changes that reflect, you know, that we have to enforce, and we're not told about it. And in the past. And
Sure.
so I'm just saying that right now, I was unaware of this ordinance, and I try staying up on top of this because I'm the one that was putting together when we got new ordinances in to help with workload to update our bond, what we call the bond book. So we know what the ordinance number is, we know which ordinance reflects, and then how much the bond is going to be. Because we need to enter that stuff in so that we can give those tools out there to our guys, so that when they come across this infraction, you know, it's just another tool in the toolbox. But like I said, there's been a disconnect in Ashland County with communicating the information that needs to go to each department. And we need to do better at that. And so this policy, like I said, it needs some adjustment to go along with state law and or add to it, but then it also, we have to follow up with ordinances that we can enforce, because otherwise why have these more strict rules if we can't enforce them?
So here's my suggestion, that we rewrite the policy, and you know, and I would be willing to work with you the two of us to rewrite the policy with input from the committee. What are you guys looking for? What do you guys want to see in there or not see in there? And then we can rewrite it and bring it to you again next month for either approval or change again. That's my.
If you draft a policy, can we also share it with the trail club? Because ultimately, they're gonna have to work with you if it's ever approved
Sure.
to sign and all that. So it'd be nice if the club's input at least was, that they could.
Sure. I mean, yeah, they could see a draft proposal of it.
Was there any problem on that part that was opened up on F to the Iron County line?
Not that I'm aware of.
And I want to point that out too, is that I think that's something else that when Emmer was looking at all the pros and cons of this, I believe that that portion of F, just because of the terrain, the hills, or not hills, but the dips, the curves, it probably should have been 45 all along anyways. Just because when you drive over there, every curve has gravel kicked all over it because people can't stay on the road for whatever reason. Because if you're doing 55 there and you just blink or take your mind off the road for just a couple of seconds, you're hitting that gravel shoulder or you're over on the. So I believe that those are certain circumstances that I think when you get together as a group like this, you can say, hey, this is what's going on out there. This is why we need, and this is good safety. So I'm glad that it happened that way. It actually turned out better, I think, because the speed limit is 45 out there. Gary and I were just talking about, and I don't want to jump ahead, but going back to like the Mineral Lake Road, we were talking about that intersection there. It's kind of blind as you're coming north.
Okay.
And if you have a directional on and, if it's going to be safe that or whatnot. Because you can't see the road or the intersection is kind of, you don't see the sign right away if you don't know it's there, but you're looking for it. And I don't know if it's something where, like if we said Mineral Lake Road, you put up a sign with a Mineral Lake Road sign, 500 feet or whatever they do, that would make it better just for the normal general traffic. I don't necessarily know going offhand if more clearing so you can see the curve. I don't, as you come around, I don't know if that can happen because of right-of-way issues.
We're working, you obviously
Right,
see,
yeah,
we're working our way south
Right.
just as we go, so we will get there probably.
So it's stuff like that when we're communicating like this, everybody brings an idea in there, and I think it's just we can make the roadways safer by doing little things, and in the same time promoting our recreation for Ashland County. And I think we can come to a happy medium by doing all that.
Last week I went on the detour around, and by Spider Lake Road there was 3 ATVs on the road, and there was about 5 or 6 cars backed up behind them, and that's closed.
Right.
Not for ATVs.
Yep.
And there was 3 of them on there, and that road is so windy. I wouldn't. The ATV with the amount of traffic on that road, there's no way, as far as I'm concerned, that should be open for ATVs. GG is too busy, and when you got people going 55, 60 around those corners, that's just an accident waiting to happen. And it's a lot different on F and N, because the traffic is nowhere near, I think.
And I revert back to what I just said about
Right.
traffic. And they shouldn't be on there anyways right now. So, that's a moot point.
Right.
They would have gotten a ticket if I would have came by, because that's what's been happening is that I'm letting everybody know, and people are getting tickets when we catch them on the highways and they shouldn't be there. So, and that's, that's what we're here for. I can't catch everybody.
Right, I realize that, but I'm just saying, I just wanted to point out that, maybe there's more traffic with the detour. I'm sure there is, but to me, they don't belong on that road.
It raises an interesting question when traffic increases like that because of a detour. What can we do, to ease that? Like even if it happened on F or on.
Well, I think in your ordinances, you could make maintain that the highway commissioner,
Yeah, in the
Something to that
policy, it
effect.
does. I mean, it states if a situation develops that warrants closure of a designated ATV route, the highway commissioner shall have authority to temporarily suspend or close the route, subject to review and final determination by the highway committee. So, I could close it, until the next meeting, you guys could have final say so, but in that kind of a situation, we would have, under the current policy, have the means to take care of that.
So if Matt, if you work with law enforcement to redevelop the policy,
Sure.
and then once you get a draft, if you can share it with the club, so the club can have some input too, because ultimately, if we approve it, the club's gonna have to work with
Yeah.
you for signage.
Yeah, I mean, it would be something, we could work together, do a draft policy. We could send it out to the committee for comments even before the next meeting and send it to the club for comments. Maybe, if we can look at the comments, revise it again if needed, and then bring it to another highway committee meeting for either approval or more revisions if needed at that time. And that's what I would like to do, but today, if you guys have suggestions of changes or what you would like to see it say, I would be open to that. Appreciate that.
And when that section of Elmwood to the Iron County line on F opened up, the speed limit for cars went to 45.
Yes.
So if we open up F, even though a lot of it's 45 and everybody's doing 60, sorry, they are. I think then if we open it up, we should change the speed limit for cars to 45.
So I think we can do that. My understanding is I think the highway commissioner could drop the speed limit 10 miles an hour. Any more than 10 miles an hour, it has to go to the DOT for a speed study. And
See,
they might raise the speed limit.
You know, when
I
you
mean,
go,
because it goes off the 85th percentile of what people are doing.
90% of the road's 45 already. The problem is there's not enough signs up and people get confused. Well, where Keewake's Tavern was, that was 55 for a long time. And by my house, it's 45, but people don't even know that because there's one sign up by Howard Schwinsky's coming back.
Sure.
There's really no sign telling them it's only 45 there. And people have been picked up on there for doing 55 or 60. But so really, if the whole road went to 45 in the case of F, it really wouldn't matter because so much of it is 45 now. It's just not well known.
Sure.
There's just some short stretches that actually say 55. And now that Elmwood to the Iron County line is 45, so. But that's something, we can look at too. Is the committee okay with having them draft the policy?
I think that's really a good idea, and but I think the towns need to know about it too, and the clubs, and but that's the way it should be done. But I still think the highway department should have, or the highway committee should have the right to decide which roads or county trunks should be open to ATVs. It shouldn't just be blanket.
Right.
This is Clark. I would also recommend that the committee direct the highway commissioner to review the ordinance if it needs updating also and align it with state law, because it looks like it was updated in 2016, but it looks like it was originally written in 85. So I'd also put that into your recommendation.
Thank you, Clark. Okay.
It's okay. Whatever.
So for
I was
another,
pretty much gonna say that. I was just gonna suggest that maybe you could look at some of the other counties that have different ordinances and combine what you feel like. And the other thing I was going to suggest is once your detour is off GT, what if you put a counter out there to actually see, the amount of traffic that's coming through there. But you have to do it after your detour is over, because right now you are getting a flux of people out there. At least then you would at least know what the exact count is going to be.
And I can attest to, prior to the detour, 50% of the traffic on that road is Minnesota plates.
I would agree.
I'm on that road every day. And I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but they haven't got a clue how to read the speed limit sign. But it's less traffic than now because of the detour, but those folks, they're cutting from Minneapolis going somewhere, and they're on GG steady all summer. I
And
guarantee
winter,
half of it's,
winter they're going to ski.
Yeah.
It doesn't change with the seasons
Right.
there.
I think it's over in Minnesota too, all two-lane highways like what we have here. It's a 60 mile an hour.
A little more.
And they're just assuming it is over here. I don't know what to do, but they're moving.
Yeah.
It's not kind of like the Michigan people when they come over here. Are you serious? I'm surprised there's not more holdover than what there is.
Yeah.
But for a matter of record, I think we need to make some kind of recommendation as Clark had indicated.
okay. So you guys are okay with working on the draft
Yes.
and the club will
Yeah.
get signed? All we want to do, and this can come through the clubs and for us, we have to alert people that those county roads are not open right now, because I've already heard people in Glidden say, oh, county end's open. No, it's not.
Well, if I may, I've been talking with Louis, who's the chairman of Jacobs. And right now, they're using the two different statutes. They're for the sanitary district, they're using the one for the 35 mile an hour.
Yes.
They haven't got the signs up yet to mark the jurisdictions on the state highway yet. And he's aware of that, and he's got them ordered. It was taking longer.
Sure.
He's got all the other, the outline that's outside of the sanitary district, which is the remainder of the Jacobs. He's got that signed on the jurisdictional boundaries. So County N, it doesn't technically go into effect until it's signed, and I made Louis aware of that. So right now, the sanitary district, what they're talking about is technically not allowed, they're not allowed to operate on County N within the sanitary district, but they will as soon as they get them signed. County N, and I told Louis that he had to put unless it changes, because I knew this was coming up, County N, if it gets approved, then it won't matter then. But as of right now, he needs to put up an end ATV sign at, what is that, Mill Road?
Mill or Mac.
Mackenberg, yeah, right there, along with, he's already got the sign. I should rephrase it. I'm not sure if he has the sign that goes into town yet.
Yeah, we have, I don't think we've moved it yet. We need to move our speed limit sign back a few hundred feet.
And that was the other thing I addressed with him. I said, you need to talk to Matt about that,
Yeah.
because if you do that, that'll make everything easier there until County N. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm assuming it was gonna get opened up, but until that happened, if that could be the
And I
case.
agreed to move that speed limit
Okay.
sign back a little ways through that mill in Mackenberg, so that then they would have jurisdiction up to that road.
And then, I don't know if this is the place right now, but since we're on this topic, the 30 mile an hour sign on State Highway 13 as you come into town from the north, I think it's just south of the Tyler Court Road.
Okay?
Are you able to move that sign north
No,
Would
that
that
would have to go to request through DOT.
to the state?
Yeah, we don't have any.
Because I told him, I said, that's gonna be a point of contention, because that's how people from that side of the area, and we're gonna have people jetting through there, and I kind of heard that that's happening already. So, I mean, those are the kind of issues that we have, but this is why we have this committee, so that we're able to discuss this and come up with a viable solution. So it's just the little minor things that need to be worked out in order to try to have the safe,
Sure.
balance out the safety and the recreation.
I'd like to say something if possible?
Sure, go ahead.
I think this is a quick fix to bring people in our area, but ultimately, we need to be looking at trails. People want to ride on trails. They can ride on roads anytime they want. They know that they have to ride a road to a trail. I think we need to really seriously look with forestry. What roads we can work, forestry roads. Where can we put a trail? That's what people really want. That's what they come up here for, is the trails. I mean, I'm invested in Quantoba, and that's everything we're hearing is we want trails. We can ride roads anytime. I'm not saying not to open up the roads because it gets people here, gets them to a trail. But ultimately, we need to have a group looking with forestry to look at roads, to look at their roads, to look at a possible trails to meet to these roads.
Okay, so you guys will work on the policy, and then we'll have it on next month's agenda as to where we are in the whole process.
Yeah,
As well as the ordinance too, is that what the committee's asking us to do?
Right.
we can look at.
And like you say, we already know that Iron, Price, those counties all have every road open, their county roads, so
Yes.
maybe they do have some information that we could garner some of the points, just look at it and say, hey, that's where you wanna go.
I mean, that's an option, if that's what this committee wants to say, that's an option to make a policy. But that has to come from you.
As far as,
Opening everything.
well, yeah, I'm not so sure we wanna open everything yet, there's some question marks. But certainly N and F, which already have the blessings of the town, and we need to find out. if
And
the
I
committee can
know
live with
C, Maringo has been talking, they've contacted me on C, I told them, let's wait and see what happens with
Well, I
this
know the
whole-
town of Maringo does want it because I've been at the meetings and I've been
Yeah,
talking with the.
they do too, I mean,
And I know Ashland, town of Ashland is gonna want that open up and then is the hybrid link, is that all Ashland too, isn't it? I don't think it's any Morris, is it?
no, Morris would start at Golf Course Road.
Okay.
So that would be, I mean, that doesn't go anywhere, it only goes. to
Right, that would be
13,
the way
so-
that they would go to Mellon anyways, is
Yeah.
down.
But Judo, I mean, let's work on the ordinance and the policy, and then we know which roads we already have town blessings on. And then the committee can decide if that's what we want. And then if other towns come in, we can look at that too.
Do you want, right now, the policy states that, application has to come through Trails Association. Would you want it to be able to come through a town? So they could make an application? And that they would be responsible for the signage.
Well, I don't want to get in a battle between the clubs and the town.
You don't have the clubs.
Right.
I mean, right now, the
That's-
Missions Camp of Bridge and part of Park Falls, well, actually Park Falls and, Butter.
If we said the towns, then would the towns be responsible for the signage?
Yes.
Well, I think they are anyways.
Well,
When it comes to a route. However, they can link up with clubs and talk to them. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe even the towns can petition or get funding for signage as long as they fill out the proper paperwork. I believe, but I'm not sure.
I don't know that.
Chris Huffman would know.
So I think there's ways for the township to help offset the cost of, and for the most part, talking with some of the township chairmen, it sounds like if you sign it with the new statutes where it's only at jurisdictional boundaries, it ends up being cheaper for them anyways, because they don't have to have a sign on the other side of the, they don't have to have two signs on the road. Plus, most of the townships that surround everybody, that road's open when it enters the other town, so they don't have to put an end sign on there, so it ends up being cheaper for them because there's less signs that you have to maintain and put up.
Sure.
can you put in their towns and or?
That's what I'm asking.
Okay. Right. That works. No objection?
I would suggest to say municipalities, not townships.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, because we have,
I believe the town of Ashland, aren't all the town of Ashland roads open anyway. So we-
But this is the problem that we're running into is that, and I tried to make this clear to all the townships. I put out an email, letter, whatever you want to call it, memo. And it addressed municipalities' responsibilities to relieve civil liability to them. I gave them the 3 that I know of, references in their booklets. One's made out by the DOT, one's made by the DNR, and I don't remember what the other one is. But there's one that specifically is addressed to municipalities in the signing of ATV snowmobile routes and what signage is needed for what particular type of road. And that, the responsibility is that they have to, pass the ordinance. They then have to sign the road, and then they also have to send it to three government bodies, one being the local law enforcement for that municipality. I requested that it just be to the sheriff's department so that I can keep a copy of the orders, because that's what the law says they have to do. The sheriff's department doesn't review the law or the ordinance to see if it's correct or not. It also has to go to the DNR. They don't review it because that's what the law says. It just has to be on file with them. And then it has to go to the state patrol. And then once they sign it, then it's effectively, that's supposed to save them civil liability. However, I know that a lot of townships, for whatever reason, they put the ordinance together, didn't use the language that's, they got templates in there for them to use, and they just passed and said all our town roads are open. And then they're like, well, we got some signs out there, good enough. So the problem is that, and I keep repeating the same email to them saying, I'm just trying to help you maintain the civil aspect of, anybody can get sued anytime, but if you have all your ducks in a row, more than likely you're not going to be hit by this. So I only can do what I've done so far. So that's the issue that we're having is most of, if not all the townships have some type of an ordinance, and most, if not all the townships have opened up all the roadways, but they're not signed correctly. And the ordinance may not be written correctly. So here we are. And it makes it more difficult for us because now you're trying to figure out, well, okay, yeah, it's open per ordinance, but is it ordinance written properly? And then if the road ain't signed, well, we're not gonna guess. It's just kind of go with what we, what you can do. You're looking for safety issues and then you address it with them and go from there. What else do you say to these townships? So,
yeah, so you guys will work on it,
Yeah,
and next meeting we'll put it on the agenda.
okay. Yeah, I'd like to get on it right away so we can, get it out and send it out to you guys, and I'd like you to review it and send it back with, any suggestions before the meeting, we get there.
And the club's okay? Okay.
Do we, I don't know. Clark, do we need some type of a motion on this, or is it something that's just?
I think the minutes will reflect that the committee has given you direction, and I think that's clear enough for now. You're basically drafting something. It's like they say, just draft something up and then bring it back for review.
Sure, thank you.
Okay.
And email it to me, to my address.
Sure.
I think you have it. LLP here. I have it. Yep.
We're happy now?
Just what I wanted to do and come and see you guys. It's been a
Yeah,
So, any other questions on those items?
So that was basically number 8, the discussion on ATV policy. Do you want to have any discussion on number 9, the discussion and update on ATV routes? I mean, basically, as Gary said earlier, the towns of Jacobs, Agenda, and Peaksville have put letters of support out for N and F. I've had, verbal from Marengo on County C. And then I also have request applications from the Trail Midgets Club for County C from Gilligan Road up back behind here over across the highway to Government Road. And then also on GG from Nemacoggin Road to Mineral Lake Road. So them are the current requests right now.
What does Marty think about that?
Don't know yet.
Well, he's the town of Ashland.
Yeah. A road, that's a pretty good road, but it's narrow, there's no place to go here. Although it is better than GG than what you're talking about.
Yeah, and the traffic volumes is little to nothing compared to GG.
And the truth is, people go on there anyway.
They do.
You're not supposed to listen to them.
Well, in discussing it, my concern is on F. I live on F. The four-wheelers, ATVs know it's not open. So they are going at an extremely high rate of speed by my house because they don't want to get caught. And they're more danger now than if it was open and they could just do whatever. And then if they're going too fast, yeah. But law enforcement can't be everywhere. But I can name the same people that just speed through there because they don't want to get caught. And M is probably just as bad from what I'm hearing, that folks are running it illegally and there's $200 and some fine to get caught. But so that being said, but what I'd like to do is if we get this policy and then if the ordinance needs to get changed, then we can address each one of these individually. So we can talk about a specific issue. So I have an issue too, and we've already talked about it. And I do agree the bicycles are as much of a problem on GG as anything, but there's some things we could do. Nemacoggin Road to Mineral Lake, heading towards Mineral Lake to the east. That is a blind corner. I'm on there every day, and I have no idea where Mineral Lake Road is, and I've been there for 5 years. Because you're driving along, you see the old campground, you know it's coming up, and all of a sudden, bang, there's the road sign, and you can't see to the right. And I'm going to turn in front of oncoming traffic. So the suggestions, if we look at those issues, maybe a sign, like you say, back saying, hey, there's a road up ahead, slow down or whatever. And then maybe there's some more clearance we could do, because that's a scary spot. They're turning left onto Mineral Lake Road.
Do you have many problems with minors on the road, on the ATVs? Or is it more adults?
It's gotten better. It's like everything else. It seems like all of a sudden we have this uptick where the kids between the age of 12 and 6 or 15 are on the roadway when they're not, and they're not accompanied by a parent, and all of a sudden it dies for a couple months, where you're not really seeing that, you're not hearing much. So it's like everything else. I mean, I don't think it's just a way of life right now. We have these four-wheelers, they're out there in them, and they drive by my house once in a blue moon. Some days it seems like it's happening a lot more. They normally are doing it when I'm off duty, but they probably just see the truck sitting there, so they just assume that I ain't working, and and I don't know half who they are. I don't know if they're locals or not. I mean, there's a few that are locals, but the rest of them I don't recognize who they are. So it's hard to say who's all doing this stuff. And for the most part, what we're finding out, and I've talked to other deputies just recently. In fact, Gary, we get them out on 77 or on GG, we're just like, well, I didn't want to drive around, so I just went down the road. Okay, well, here's your $232 ticket. You're not supposed to be out here. You know you're not supposed to be out here. It's just because they didn't care. They just wanted to go get to town quicker. So, I mean, you're gonna have that no matter what. And, you know, not having a road open isn't gonna ease any of this. And I think it may even help a little bit because, as Gary stated, if the people that know, and we're talking about the locals most of the time now, that if I just gotta get from here to there and it's only 3 miles, I'm gonna do 70 miles an hour because that's how fast my machine can go, and I drive like that all the time anyways, on a 45-mile-an-hour road. Because they know if they get caught by us, they're gonna get that ticket. So they're going faster than what they should be. If it was a route, maybe they wouldn't go as fast. So, and once again, we could sit here and argue this all day long.
Your marching orders. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna move to 5.
So we'll just table number 9?
Well, I mean, I don't know how you approve something if we don't have the policy, correct?
The policy right now, it's not a, I
Right.
mean, none of this meets the criteria to prove anything.
But as soon as we develop and approve a new policy and either that or the ordinance, then we're gonna bring it back one at a time at the, whatever, meeting. And then we say whether or not we approve a particular road or.
I think that when we do develop a policy, it should be to the effect that, and I think that's the idea now too. It should be to the effect that driving on the county highways is the last resort. That's the last alternative. Get the full.
No offense, but North Park and Town of Agenda is open, County F is not. And yet there's multiple 4-wheelers coming out of Peaksville down North Park, hit F and go into town, claiming farm. And I don't know when one of the local businesses, which is not a farm selling business, became a farm, but that's how they're getting around it. Because I've mentioned it to multiple people. I said, you know, that's not open currently. Well, we're doing farm business, so that's not exactly where they're headed. But
Well, if I stop and talk to them, there's elements that they have to prove in order to fall under the exemption of agricultural use. So,
well, anyways, good. Okay, so that okay, Bill, and Marty, that Mike? Okay. All right. Okay, so fine.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next month.
Updates on employees. So Bob Tomlinson, I had mentioned last month, he had given me a verbal. He did give me a written letter stating he's retiring as of September 10th. So we are in the process of advertising and recruiting new shop superintendent. As Dick stated earlier, he'll be missed. I mean, he's a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience. But yeah, moving on. Just for your information, I did put out a policy internally for our employees to wear masks when we're in buildings and they're by other employees. When they're outside, we're not requiring them. We are requiring them if there's more than one person in a vehicle. If they're by themselves in a vehicle, they're fine. But just trying to, you know, if they can come through this building, one's over there and one's over here, we probably will require. But if they're going to be closer and can't keep the social distance requirements, that we do want them to wear masks. So, work schedule. We've been on GG south of Clam Lake doing some culverts and digging out rocks. That section of road is slated to get paved next year. So there was 5 or 6 culverts that needed replaced. So we did that. And then there's, I don't know, 30 or 40 some rock bumps in the highway that we're taking them out of the base, and we'll have to patch them in for this year. But just getting ready for next year on that. We also been doing crack sealing. We crack sealed a section of 77. We crack sealed all this new pavement from Golf Course Road to Butterworth on 13 here. We did that section. We currently are doing a couple days for the town of Jingles, and then we will be also doing 3 or 4 days for the city of Ashland. We did hit, let's see, we did County F, M, some of E and C and E. So we've been busy on the crack sealing. That'll continue here into August some. That's the main thing we're mowing. Got a couple more is going. We have a little storm cleanup here. We got by, I think, pretty easily over the weekend. We have some trees to clean up, but they're off the road, so it'll be rain day work or as we can get to them. We are going to be doing some work for forestry. They got a grant through the DNR to work on some town roads that are in the Ashland County Forest. So we'll be starting that later on this week. I think it's Town Road 9 or Forest Road 9 or something down in the town of Jacobs. We'll be fixing a hill that washes out on a regular basis.
It's Silver Creek. That's what they're referring to, Silver Creek.
Okay,
We had looked at that several years ago.
sure. So yeah, that's basically an update on the work schedule. As far as construction, still have not started on.
I've got a question for you. You're working 4 10-hour days,
Yes,
and what happens if the weather's really bad on one of those days? You don't work, you still come to work that day?
yeah. We have a lot of little stuff that gets left that we try to do on the rain days, unless it's just an absolute downpour where they can't be outside. If it's just the light rain, they're still outside. They're cutting these trees off the sides of the roads. We actually mow the lawns in the rain a lot around here. Just different cleanup stuff. They go through the trucks. A lot of stuff kind of during the heat of the season, a lot of the little stuff gets left trying to get the big work done. So then we take the opportunity of rain days to do that sort of thing.
Couple of things, Matt. Do you have stop signs that our flaggers are using that light up?
We had some, they quit working. I actually just told our superintendent last week to order more.
I'll tell you why, because the flaggers on this seal, Atari, two issues. One is the rumble strip signs are too close to the rumble strips.
Okay,
Because the sign says rumble strips and
there they are.
they're right there. And you shouldn't really hit them at whatever speed, but that's just a thing of moving them back a little
Sure.
harder. But then you go for a mile or so and they're there, but then all of a sudden, even with the yellow and that dull red sign, it's tough to see that flagger. And we sometimes a half a mile from the work. If we had those flashers back,
Sure.
I'm just looking at safety because I've come through here several times and
No, I did notice that, and I did tell them to order some more.
Yeah.
Because they do work.
right, it just for the protection of the flagger.
Sure.
Because I came up on one the other day and I thought, I know they're there.
Yeah.
They're so far from the actual work and then, I don't know why, but you didn't see them real well.
A person is, I know I would do this if you're out there flagging, you don't want to be in a shady spot, and that makes it even harder to see.
Sure.
I can remember, I was out west one time, and they were doing some road work, and this was like, off on the horizon, you could see somebody out there with that sign you're talking about with the flashing.
Yeah.
Right.
As far as the rumble strips, the state has a standard detail on how to set them up in the signage to make sure that they're following that detail.
I'm just saying there's been, not all the time, but several times the sign for rumble strips and the strips are like from me to you away.
Sure.
And
There's supposed to be a rumble strip ahead sign, I think.
and that may be what it says, but they're ahead.
Yeah.
But
Okay. I will look into it.
because you hit them, you know it.
That's right, the rumble strips, they do serve a good purpose.
They do.
You know something's coming.
Yeah.
You learn to slow down, but the problem is you hit them before you learn.
Yeah. Yep.
So just a couple of them.
Okay.
Thank you.
On the construction, I have not. I should contact American. I have not heard when they're planning to do end yet the 5 miles of paving. They have until September 1, I think was 1 or 15 was the deadline on that. So they have time yet, but I'm guessing that'll be here in the pretty near future. There will be starting on that. So that's what I have for updates. Is there any other questions?
Okay. Okay, motion to accept this report. Okay, second?
Second.
Second by Marty. Discussions? All those in favor of accepting the report, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Discussion and update on county bridge aid policy.
So county bridge aid, we have talked about that last month. You had asked me to go to the towns and ask for opinions on what they thought about a county bridge aid policy. And I got back, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 so far on a little survey I sent out. And all of them that came back do not support us at this time doing a bridge aid policy. So my recommendation is for now is let's table this, let's look at it in a year or two if things start moving again as far as economy wise and the COVID stuff goes away. I think at this time it's not good.
Mike, quick question, when is our next bridge inspection report due? Next year?
This year.
So
Everything is
bridge
due
inspection
by
will be done this year?
September. Yeah. I will be inspecting the county bridges in August, and all the towns that was put out on a contract, and a company called KBIS out of Phillips got the contract, and they have until basically September 1 to inspect all the town bridges, and a couple county bridges that are getting close to a little
My
worse
thought
shape.
is that perhaps once we get the new bridge inspection reports, we got the deficiency rating on these bridges, that would be a good time to take and bring in this aid policy,
Sure.
but back to the townships, so that it may be beneficial for them. If this could ease their budgets by obtaining some of these funds from the bridge aid policy.
Yeah, it definitely
So
could.
they would know the importance of this.
Yeah,
So, yeah, that was my
sure.
reason.
Thank you.
Marty?
Was there like a common reason why people were against it?
I think talking to them, they don't feel that there's enough benefit in it, and I don't see that, but they think, well, I don't know, we don't have much for bridges, or we don't have bridges that are going to be fixed in the near future. We don't see the financial benefit for our town. So,
Which town has responded?
Jingles, Peaksville, Jacobs, LaPointe, and Gordon.
Well, Peaksville just spent $100-some thousand on their bridge.
I mean, I was surprised that Jacobs, they've sent a county board member from their area to me a couple times asking what can the highway department do to help them out on funding and get them more dollars to spend, and this is one way. And then they turn around and they do not support it. So I think if I was to do it again, I would want to, and I had planned to do this is to go to each town meeting and explain what it is and explain how it would work and, the benefits or not to the towns. But with the COVID restrictions, I did not go to these meetings, and, it's hard they don't understand without being able to ask questions and talk face to face about the issues, I think.
Motion to support Matt's recommendation.
Okay, motion to support his recommendation on putting the county bridge aid policy on hold for now.
I'll second that motion.
Second, please. Any questions? You did get Bill second, I'm sorry. Bill seconded it?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
All right,
All right.
Opposed? Motion carried. Non-metallic line reclamation ordinance.
So just to update on this, we still have not got anything back from Max, the county attorney, with any guidance on how we should move forward with changing. That was the change on how their financial assurance was. They can't just do like a yearly thing. We want to have more assurance for a further time period. So I guess I did touch base with Clark on that recently. Max has been having some issues. He's going to get to it soon. So
Your recommendation to tables?
yes, table for now.
So move. Motion by Mike to table, second by Marty. Question? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next meeting date. Are we going with the third, about Monday like this, or do we have something in sequence?
So generally we went with the second Monday.
Right.
I was on vacation I got back from vacation last week, and then now next month on August 10th, at this time, I'm still scheduled to go to road school. We'll see how COVID is doing at that time, if I will be able to or not. I do not know that at this time. So I would recommend going to the 17th again, the third Monday, if that would be.
I'm assuming, I should never assume. The Conservation Congress is supposed to meet, that was postponed from May till August 17th.
Okay.
I gotta believe, no offense to anyone, but the Conservation Congress is older. I gotta believe they're gonna cancel it again, so.
Yeah.
But if the 17th works for everybody else, that's. So far? Okay.
Fine.
Okay.
August 17th.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And then if anybody has items for the next agenda, just let Andrew or Matt know.
So just as of now, obviously the ATV thing will be back on the agenda, planned to be probably with the a possible new policy, and then budget. Clark wants all the departments to submit a budget by the 20th of August, so I would like to bring it to you guys on the 17th to look over what I plan to submit for a budget on the 20th. So that will be upcoming next month.
Anything else?
20th? Do you have a lot of applications for the job yet?
We have 0, but I think it was just out this weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, it went out last
Wednesday was the first, so no applications do go to the administrator's office, so possible there's something there I have not heard or seen of anything yet.
Okay, well, we're filling out the motion. Nothing else, so we need a motion to adjourn. To adjourn. Motion by Mike. Second. I'll second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.